Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Okay, as usual, I suggest you have a pencil and paper handy to jot down some notes. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of staying in conversation with God, talking to God all day long about what's going on and what you're doing. We have a wonderful coincidence miracle to prove that this is important. For example, most people understand that God created us with free will. We have free will to choose to find Him, to respect Him, to pay attention to Him, to ask Him questions, to learn about what He wants us to learn about. We have free will to do that or not, and some people choose not to. They decide not to pay any attention to God at all. God gives us that free will because He loves us and He doesn't want us to be slaves. Now, I've written 2 books about this, and over the years, the last 50 years, I get a lot of people who say to me, well, Tony, I don't ask God questions. I just assume that if there's something He's got to tell me, He'll tell me. Well, after 50 years, I can tell you I've got a lot of experience that says there's a great danger in assuming that God will just barge in on your day and tell you what you need to be told because of the free will issue. For example, if He does that and He's allowed to do that and you think He's going to do that, well, He'd have to do that for every person on the planet. And if He has to do that with every person on the planet, barge into their day and tell them what to do and interrupt them, then He's taking away their free will. So it's just logical sense that if we have free will, we need to be asking Him what to do, because if He barges in on our day, He'd be taking away our free will. Now, I know some of you will quite correctly say, well, but Tony, it's very true. He barged in on me yesterday. He barged in on me twice today. He inspired me to do things. I didn't ask Him any questions. He's been doing that for years. So a lot of people tell me that. So I've talked to God about it, and you can talk to God about it. And here's what I've come to understand in my discussions with God. Yes, indeed, He does barge in because He loves us. So here's the bottom line of a long story. I've talked to God for many years about this. And the bottom line is this. He loves us, and He does nudge us and prompt us and break in our day. However, there's a quota there, because He has to be fair with everybody on the planet, and only He could figure this out. So He knows there's a fair quota, and at some point we run out of quota. Now, I don't know what your quota is, and I don't know what my quota is, but the danger is if we just assume He's going to barge in on our day, that someday Maybe after 40 years, maybe after 10 years, we're going to run out of quota. And if we're not asking him questions every day, we're not going to get any more of him barging in on our day. So that's the danger, okay? So, like I said, people assume, well, I don't ask God questions. I just assume he's going to barge in on my day. Well, that's going to be taking away free will, and he's got to be doing this for everybody on the planet. And so it doesn't really make logical sense that he gives us free will and then he barges in on us throughout our entire life. That means then we didn't have free will. It gets confusing, but the bottom line is, trust me, you have to ask God questions all the time. Ask him what to do. That's called praying, by the way. Just talking to God is prayer. We think prayer is something different, but prayer means talking to God. If I talk to somebody at the supermarket, I'm talking. But if I'm talking to God, I'm praying. It's that simple. So keep praying, which means keep talking to God. The Bible says pray incessantly. Pray incessantly, never ending. Pray constantly. And that's what the Bible is saying. Talk to God constantly about everything. So here's a cute, well, I don't know if it's cute, but it's a very simple coincidence miracle that proves my point. On one particular day, I had so many things, I can't even remember how many things I had to get done that day. And I was rushing around trying to get things done. And I was asking God what to do. And I was running out of time. And it got to the point about midday, I was getting late. And I realized I'm not going to make it. I can't get all these things done. And I don't know why I'm asking God what to do, but I'm not getting any answers. So now I started talking to God in that frame of reference, saying, geez, God, I've been asking you, help me with this, plan this. I'm not feeling like I'm getting any input. And I still wasn't. Even though I was saying that, he wasn't answering me. So after a while of getting frustrated, thinking, oh, my God, I'm asking him for help. I'm not hearing anything. And that's very unusual. I usually hear something. I decided to stop everything, sit down, and be quiet and calm myself down. And I said, okay, God, I'm sorry. I'm rushing around crazy. And I was inspired at that moment to realize, when somebody is talking to us and they're on their cell phone or they're texting somebody or they're talking to someone else while they're talking to us, we get very frustrated. We say, they're asking me a question, but they're not listening to me at all. If you're a teacher, the students sometimes do that, and it can get you very frustrated. So I realized in that moment that that's what I was doing to God. I was asking him to tell me what to do, but I wasn't really listening carefully to what he was saying, and I was frustrating him. And that's what I realized by sitting down. And then here's what he said to me. He inspired me and said, Tony, turn the radio off. You got the radio on full blast so you can hear everything they're talking about while you're rushing around. So that's distracting. And you're rushing around while you're asking me questions, and you ask me 5 questions in 5 minutes, and you haven't even heard one answer. So sit down and stop, and let's take care of one thing at a time. So I did. I sat down, and I very carefully calmed down, and I started asking him one thing at a time. And here's the first thing that happened. I asked a question, and he said, Tony, first, do me a favor. Before I answer your question, do me a favor. Go to the Bible and just open it at random, okay, Tony? I want to show you something. So I said, okay. I calmed myself down. I'm paying attention. I got up. I went to get my Bible. I sat down nice and calm, and I prayed for wisdom where to open. I put my nails wherever he was inspiring me, and I felt that's the place. So I opened wherever my nail was. I felt he was saying, yes, that's the spot. And I opened the Bible, and my eyes landed on Psalm number 46. That's Psalm number 46, and I was at verse 10 and 11. And what Psalm 46, 10 and 11 says, are you listening to this? It's amazing. Psalm 46, 10 says, be still and know that I am God. Let me say that again. Psalm 46, 10 says, be still and know that I am God. And verse 11 says, and I am on your side, which makes me think he's always right there beside us. Okay, so that was a lesson in spades, right? I'm rushing around, babbling, asking God for help. Half of the day's going up in smoke. I'm not getting any clarity. I'm blaming him. He's not talking to me. So he finally got me to realize, sit down and stop running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And I did that, and he says, now before I answer you, Tony, go open the Bible at random. So I did that. And what do I open to? I open to be still and know that I am God, and I am on your side. Now, I think that proves two things. First, we have to ask God questions. We can't be just running around and assuming he's going to barge in on our day. We have to sit down and respectfully, with great respect, asking God Almighty, the creator of all things. Certainly if we were asking somebody of importance like the President of the United States or someone of great influence, we would respectfully ask them a question. So we have to do the same with God for sure, because he deserves more respect than anybody else. And so this is proof, and it was, God putting my nose in it and, proving that I needed to shape up and behave better. And I share it with you, a little bit embarrassed about it, but I learned, and I'm passing it on to help other people learn before you have to learn the hard way. And don't assume that he's going to barge in on your day because of that quota aspect. Because you have free will, he expects you to ask him questions. Our next coincidence miracle is called 70-mile van from home. I was inspired one day to go to a vacation spot which was 70 miles away and again pass out cards about the 2 books I have written. It's my way of evangelizing, and it's God's inspiration to me very often because he's trying to get many people to read his 2 books, which he asked me to produce for him. And so I really wasn't feeling positive about this. I had done a lot of traveling on a particular week. I was tired. I wasn't thinking this was going to produce great results. I was just personally not feeling strong about it, and I wasn't getting any really strong impulses. It was just an inspiration to go. So I started, the long trip and driving 70 miles and not feeling, something spectacular was going to be happening. I was getting more and more negative on the way in. But when I got to the end of the trip, at the end of the 70 miles, I was inspired to stop at the first gas station I saw to get some gas. And I thought, it might be better if I wait, on the way home, because I knew on the way home I would pass several gas stations. But no, Jesus kept inspiring. No, Tony, stop at the first gas station and get the gas. So I did. I pulled into the first gas station, and lo and behold, right in front of me was this van, a Connecticut van, and its license plate number was 777, and I felt Jesus smile because that number always indicates his power and his approval and his permission for things. And I felt him smiling in my conscience, in my heart, and saying, see, I told you to come. And so I went to pass out cards, and inside the van was 5 people. They had stopped for some refreshments, and there were 5 people. So I stopped and passed out the cards, and I gave each one of them a card. And one of them had heard about my books and knew about it. They asked some questions. Another person started asking questions, and we wound up talking for about a half an hour. And it turned out that this van also drove 70 miles, and they came from the same city that I live in, actually about a 10-minute drive from my house. And so I was totally amazed, and I was inspired later that day that, Jesus wanted me to give the cards to these people, to tell them about the 2 books, because they were very interested. All of them were students and very interested in the topic that, you can talk to God, you can ask him what to do. You get amazing miracle stories, and, students who are studying very often would like to have God help them remember the answers to some questions on tests. And I tell students all the time, if you study and you're talking to God, when you get to take the test, you can ask God to remind you as long as you have studied. And so this was a wonderful miracle that at the end of 70 miles, I run into a van that has a license plate with 3 sevens on it, and these people are very interested. And the rest of the day was also similarly fantastic as well. God bless you all, and I'll talk to you next week.